They do have some corresponding things. It's like, they worry about their hormones. They haven't got the hormones. Then they might have done the IVF. I do a lot with IVF, and girls have had lots of different transfers, many transfers, a lot of money passed over, and that can be very devastating. Sometimes, they focus very much on the physical side of things and not realizing it's a mind thing. It's like, research says it's like 90% of it is mindset.
Fertility and breathwork coach and facilitator Anna McDonagh is here, and she is a Sydney-based fertility coach and mind-body therapist who works with women who have tried everything to fall pregnant and are still searching for answers. So we're going to hear today about body work, the nervous system, deep stress patterns, regulating your nervous system, and so much more. It's the best-selling author podcast with Pat Mesiti, and Anna has co-authored a book with Mr. Pat Mesiti where she talks all about the fertility coach world, and so she's here to answer our questions. So Miss Anna, how are you?
I'm very good today. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for having me on board here today. Appreciate that.
Yes. I appreciate you too. We're humbled to be in the presence of the Fertility Navigator. So if we were to ask you what you're all about, someone's never heard of you, what's the quick spiel about what you are, what you do, and what makes you stand out?
Well, being the Fertility Navigator, I help women who've tried everything, or they feel as though they've tried everything and they still haven't conceived. And, they're a pretty anxious lot. But underneath it, when they actually come in to see me, quite often they look very composed and together. But underneath, the driving force underneath them, there's a lot of stuff that people do not realise what pressure that they're under. And quite often it's a very isolated, sad, disappointing situations. And everybody's different. There's not one situation that fits all. They all come in with different things happening. They may have had a child and they can't conceive the second time round. They call that secondary infertility. Sometimes they've tried everything, and I find I attract women to, from 35 upwards, but usually around about the 38, 39, 40 age group, where quite often they're professional women who've done the career number, and then next minute they want to have the family, and then they've got the pressures of the time clock, their body's not working, the hormones are changing, and then more often than not they're in the fight or flight response. So it's a pretty tough gig that they're putting themselves through. And it's not only emotional, it's physical as well. It just goes through the mind stuff as well. Not like I said, it's like not one situation is the same.
Right. And so
they do have some corresponding things. It's like, they worry about their hormones. They haven't got the hormones. Then they might have done the IVF. I do a lot with IVF, and girls have had lots of different transfers, many transfers, a lot of money passed over, and that can be very devastating. Sometimes, they focus very much on the physical side of things and not realizing it's a mind thing. It's like, research says it's like 90% of it is mindset. And if they say their body's too old, or this, time's running out, that's like a little hypnotic suggestion they're putting back into their bodies. And the body will play that out. And the body also won't work with time pressures either. I have girls come and says, well, I'm not waiting any longer. I've put this off long enough, and I've tried and tried, and I've had a break from the cycle, and I'm going to go to IVF again. And quite often they say, I'm tired of waiting. I said, well, your body doesn't respond to physiology. So if the body's not ready, or the body's under fight or flight or under pressure, I can hear it, in the conversations when they're actually talking to me. And quite often they won't wait. They will go and do the transfers. And I just know it's 10K, 12K, boom, just like that. But the ones who do prepare to do the bit of mind work and invest a bit of time in preparation for the next transfer, more often than not they conceive, because they've got the balance in place. It's like I always say, sometimes when they come to me, and I'm quite often the last port of call,
Sure.
and I feel as though their body's going north and their mind's going northwest or east. So it's getting those two factors lined up together that I always say is like keeping the hand together, joint together with the body and the mind, walking the same direction.
Oh
So
yeah.
quite often I notice it's the misalignment there. And I
So
understand it's a tough time for them. And of course, that's what they just want to do. They just want to have their family. That's, and it's quite often the girls have dreamt about it, but then the career's taken place. And next minute, years go by in a flash. And next minute, they're down the road, they're looking at 37, 38, 39. And that creates a pressure.
Oh yeah. And you laying that out shows us how short life is, right? It's like, well, do you have do you have kids early, sacrifice your career, or do you time it just right? But if you try to time it, then the biology and your body might not completely agree with you, and then I can see how these 6 or 7 obstacles stack up, and then the stress of that leads to more, and then it just someone can just feel like giving up, or they, like you say, they tried so much and they end up coming to you, and you're saying that, well, the mental status, the mindset plays into this so much. And so if they say, okay, well, I want to pursue these other possibilities, I want to get help, I want to get this problem solved, where does someone even begin? Because it just seems like a huge mess that's been built up in their mind.
I totally agree with you. But the thing that I look at, it's like the nervous system runs everything, really. And the thing is, if they've tried everything, okay, but if the nervous system hasn't got the capacity to hold that situation, it's not going to work. So it's really to get the body softened down and relaxed and get the nervous system really chilled out so it's got the capacity to receive, whether it's a transfer or whether it's just natural. But more often than not, it's usually a transfer these days. Occasionally girls conceive naturally, when they've been trying. But again, it's getting that body, the nervous system relaxed down, because they're in fight or flight all the time. It's like, I always say stress is the best contraceptive going. And if they're stressed, the body's not going to respond to that. Even their mind wants it, but the body's saying, well, I'm in protection mode. I don't feel safe. And it's the safety of the body that wants to feel safe in order to receive.
That makes complete and total sense. Our bodies want to make us safe. So if someone says, okay, like I'm looking to get from point A to point B, what are the steps or techniques? Is someone coming to you for multiple sessions, or how does someone make progress?
Well, I usually like to work with a program, really, because the thing is, if you go from session to session, there's they can bail at any time. I like to work with the whole body approach, so you get everything is like all your ducks in order. So the thing is, sometimes if the local girls, they can come in and we do actual body work. We do abdominal work on the belly. It's like a womb massage. So the thing is bringing blood supply into the abdomen, massaging the organs, all the organs, massaging the ovaries, massaging the womb, and getting everything realigned in there. And the thing is, more often than not, I'm doing hypnosis at the same time. So I don't like to waste opportunities. It's like 2 birds with one stone, so to speak, when I have them in-house doing that sort of work. And then the thing is, it's like, I always give them homework to do. It's like I'm a big believer in self-care, because it's what they do when they go home. Okay, what they can do is like I give them hypnosis to listen to every night. And that makes a big shift, feeding this mind here of a different approach, and getting beyond the emotional, the grief or the sadness or the disappointments or the guilt. There's a quagmire of emotions that can be there, and the sadness and the disappointment. And it's quite often it's a very lonely journey, because women quite often have friends, have all got their own families, and they're like the odd ball out. They've got no no child, they want the child, they find it difficult, or they won't talk about their friends to their friends. They find going to baby showers, okay, or christenings, very, very hard to do. It's quite upsetting for them. So it's getting beyond all those hurdles, okay, that they can relax and know that and it's basically, I like to get the control back into them, because quite often when they're going down the IVF road, they just tell me they just feel like another number. They're on a conveyor belt. They don't feel as though they have any control back anymore. So again, for me, I like to get the control, that they're in charge, that they can make choices, they can do some hypnosis, they can do a steam, vaginal steam, they can do more self-care for themselves, they can do some cast oil packs on their own body, so they can investing back into their own physical body of what they can actually do. So I work with a lot of different options to give them. It's depending on which situation they might need a lot of forgiveness. I might do a lot of compassion therapy with them. So I work quite intuitively too. So I've got the tools in the toolbox, and each, like I said, it's a very individual approach that I take. But quite often they might think their bodies are broken. Quite often they think, they've been cursed. I hear that quite frequently, that they think they've been cursed, which I find is a bit odd. But the thing is, that's what I do come across.
Yeah. But I can understand why someone might think that, right? There's so much pressure, and then also just the feeling that of being like left out, left behind, excluded. Like that's a part I can't even comprehend how terrible that must be, and just a feeling that continues to grow. And so when you do some of these techniques, right, there's the belly massage and the hypnosis, it makes me think of whenever I have a chance to do some kind of like mindfulness or hypnosis, or open up an app or listen to a little bit, even for a few minutes, I feel like I've like taken a nap and woken up. I feel so refreshed. But I know like different people have different takes on meditation and the audios and things like that. And so what's your style when you give the hypnosis in the room, and when you have the homework, you send them back with hypnosis? Like, what have you found works best?
I work very much with conversational style. Of that's more the style that I work with, is the conversational style of hypnosis, as if I'm just having a chat, but I'm chatting to their subconscious mind, or I'm just chatting to another part of them. Okay, and there could be just pulling different parts of them back and together again. It's like there could be a rogue part, gone to the sideline and says, well, we're not doing this because the body's not feeling safe. So, it could be some inner child work, it could be some timeline therapy. Okay, or I could just take them on a breath journey, and the breath is using the breath, whether it's if they're anxious, use a calming sort of a slow breath, or if they need a bit of activation and a bit of activity, work with more faster moving breaths, okay, and breath holds, okay, but done with music. And the thing is, quite often it's the music they go on a journey with, and quite often too, they always come back saying, it's like a sense of relief that they've let something go, but they don't know what they've let go. And it doesn't really matter if they know what they let go. But there's a shift in the physical body, or there's a shift in the mind. I always say you don't always have to know the big fat what of what you're releasing. But the thing is,
to solve the problem. Yeah.
If there's a shift, the body softens, the body relaxes, the body lets go. All they know that something's happened. And they're feeling different from before. And quite often too, even with hypnosis and that, quite often there's an integration period too. Everybody responds differently. Some people have instant different feelings, or sometimes people might be a day or two, a week later, they might feel entirely different. But so it's like gardening, I say. It's like you put the seeds into the darkness and you see what starts to sprout.
Yeah, and you pull out some weeds, and I don't need to know what kind of weeds they were, how long they were there. I just need to know that they're gone, and now the plants are growing healthily. And so it's great to have this education about this. And you've told us a little bit about some of these people that you helped. Is there anyone in particular who went through like kind of a before and after transformation that you think is worth speaking about?
Well, I had one girl, and she'd been a very, very old client. I think I'd seen her as a 14-year-old tennis player. She was an athlete. But she was down at the road at 37, so been around the traps a little bit. And she came in and she came in at a very early age too. She had really, really heavy bad periods. We eventually got that under control. Then she was in a relationship. She wanted to have a child. Well, she conceived twice. She had 2 ectopic pregnancies. Okay, and the second ectopic pregnancy, they said it was in the tube, so they actually took the tube out. And I thought, well, here we go. I don't know how she's going to go with this lot, with one tube. But she was very, very diligent. And I probably put it down to her training as an athlete, that she was very determined. So I just loaded her up with hypnosis, going right through this whole journey of losing, her tube and the ectopic pregnancies. And then she actually conceived. Now, she went through the pregnancy and I thought she was over the moon, so happy that this was happening. But at 7 months, she thought she had a infection in her bladder. So she went off to the hospital, and she rang me on the way saying, I'm off to the hospital. She said, I think I got a UTI. I said, well, just go and get it checked out. And she'd had a checkup with a pregnancy the week before and everything was fine. Well, when she got into the hospital, they said, well, you're pregnant, better check the baby. When they went to check the baby, there was no heartbeat. And she checked it 3 times. She couldn't believe it. And basically the thing is, there was no heartbeat. So then she had to make that decision of whether they said you can either abort it, okay, or actually deliver the stillborn. So they said, well, if you actually abort it, you won't be able to try for another 12 months. And she said, well, I don't want that. And so she decided to have the stillborn, and that was horrendous for her as well, because that whole procedure went for nearly 7 days of heavy medications before she actually delivered the stillborn. And that in itself was pretty traumatic for her, of what actually happened. And I thought, well, she's down a pretty heavy duty road now. Okay, so I just kept, and there didn't seem to be any grieving time with her, which I thought was a bit odd in some ways, but I didn't go there. I just sort of backed her up, and she said, I just want some hypnosis. So I gave her some hypnosis, and like I said, she's very diligent. 3 months later, she conceived again, which totally shocked the hell out of me, because I didn't expect that to happen after a situation, what she'd been through. It was a pretty highly intense, traumatic time. And she went on and she actually had a baby. She's got the boy. So it's like, you never know the miracles that can happen. But what I put it down to her grief came out in dribs and drabs when she was with the second pregnancy. And I just wondered if she would be able to hold it together, because every so often she'd ring me and she'd say, oh, I've had a little cry. And I thought, well, gee, you've been through an enormous amount of trauma. It's all like being pregnant for 2 years running for her situation. But the thing is, she came out the other end and happiness plus, and she's got the easiest baby going.
Good.
So it was a good ending story, and I was sort of so happy for her it was been a really tough gig. And on top of that, she looks after a mother who had a stroke 9 years or 10 years ago. So she's sort of holding her mum together and gone down this road as well. So it's been a pretty tough time. But like I said, there's big smiles and blossoms at the end of the journey. And like I said, she's got a very easy, happy child now. So that was some pretty good story, but a horrendous story. A horrendous story of the trauma and the emotions and the roller coaster situation that she's been through. So,
it's always a roller coaster, right? I mean, sometimes more extreme, but I mean, I only have the one kid, and just I barely slept her entire pregnancy because I was worried about, what could go wrong up until the birth. And I thought, oh, I'll be so relaxed once he's alive. No, now the worrying just begin, right? And that's just how our reality is.
That's how it goes. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
So
and we take it for granted, right? You're here, I'm here. We both went through this process of being grown in someone's belly, and we made it out alive.
it was hard to believe when you think of it like that. It's like the whole miracle of conception and of birth. And I thought, quite often I sort of look at nature, and nature shows us all. I quite often say, just get out and walk, be amongst nature, and just tuning into the nature of things. And I always say it's like the seeds. Everything's conceived from the invisible. We can't see the conception happening. We live more in an invisible world than an actual physical world of what we can see. We only see the end results, but so much happens on the invisible world. Like I said, you plant a seed and you stick it into the earth, but it's in the dark. And the same thing happens when, whether you conceive naturally or with IVF or any other assisted situation, it all happens in the dark, and the light comes at the end. They all come out in the light. The seeds and the plants come out in when the light is there as well.
Oh yes, there's so much happening, and you don't even, like, you see a tree and you're like, how deep down do those roots go? And when that tree first grew, when it came out of an acorn, it was following a recipe, wasn't it? Like there's an acorn of an oak tree, and who knows if it'll be a big one or a small one, but never in history has anyone planted an acorn from an oak tree and it was a pine tree, right? It just it has a destiny, but also the randomness. It's really cool.
That's how it is, and I find that quite amazing.
Me too.
Because we just don't know where the energy's sort of going to go, and I just find it's a real miracle, really. And and of course, you being a father and any mother says, having a family is the best creative thing they've done in their entire life.
Right. It's all about the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we've jumped around all sorts of subjects, right? We've talked about health and mental health and kind of this, the psychology of life. But in these final few minutes, I want to make sure that we talk about what's important to you. So in this conversation we're having here, Miss Anna, do you think there might be a missing question that I should be asking you? I just don't know to ask you.
I think the people who've got no one to talk to, the lonely people who are on this journey alone. And I think to really seek help to get beyond the loneliness, because I think that actually puts people further back, because it's just like this girl who had the terrible, trauma of conception. It's like, she never had her mother to tell her anything because the mother had had a stroke. And even though she came in to see me, because I knew her from way back, I assumed everything she knew. Okay. But to me, it's a very, very lonely road if there's no one there to ask, or to ask for help and say, this is what I'm experiencing. So it's like, don't delay, don't put off looking for help when you think you're coping, because quite often help is not that far away. And if you get your nervous system quietened down and allowing your body to quieten down and soften down, you're going to proceed a lot faster rather than holding back and just doing the suffering in silence. Because that's what I find. It's like I just find quite often when people have tried everything, they don't really know where to go, where to get help. So I think it's to really, really look for help when you're feeling so stuck.
I like it. Don't be afraid to ask for help and talk to someone. And even some of the stories that you were sharing made me think about, times we all go through when we get caught in these same loops and telling ourselves the same stories and catastrophizing. And sometimes it helps to, number one, verbalize the problem to someone else. Number two, have that feeling of someone just listening in and caring. And then number 3, if we're open to it, someone may be sharing some solutions or alternatives if that's the kind of thing that we're looking for. And so if someone says, okay, a lot of what Anna made sense, and I want to continue the conversation about the fertility and the breath work and feeling better, where do you fit into their future plans? How can you help, and where should someone look for you?
Well, I've got a website, Mind Healing Health, but the thing that I'm focusing on now is I built a Facebook group where women who've tried everything, they can actually go into this Facebook group where, you know, I can give them free trainings, I can give them resources. There's no judgment, there's no pressure there. It's a group where there's calmness, okay, where the body can and the mind can reset, okay, without any pressure, and so that they can build trust and hope back up into their bodies, okay, and get a vibrational, different shift, because whatever they've done in the past hasn't worked. So having a quiet, relaxed area, okay, where there's different things offered to them free, okay, sure, I do one-to-one coaching, okay, that's available. But if you just want to sit in the group, I'm called the Fertility Navigator, so it's the Fertility Navigators group on Facebook that you can actually join up, and it's a place to actually breathe, really, and that sigh of relief that, hey, I can just store here and gather some different information, or changing my vibration, okay, that I can actually build the trust back up in the body, that there is hope, that there are resources there. We can have some conversations about the struggles of fertility, okay, and there's just a good offering there.
Very good. And sometimes I know that I need time to get warmed up to a solution, right? If someone says, well, I want to look into some of this, but the subconscious reprogramming breath work, it sounds a little intimidating. I'll just go to the Facebook group, I'll join it, I'll start seeing the conversations. And over time, maybe in the next few days when I'm ready, then I'll have seen enough of the other people posting and sharing that I say, hey, this is right for me. I'm ready to take some next steps here. And so you say, that group on Facebook is the Fertility Navigator, and the website is mayanhealinghealth.com. That's MAYAN healinghealth.com. And we've been speaking to Miss Anna McDonagh, who is in the book called Live with Purpose, which is co-authored with Pat Mesiti. The website for that is livewithpurposebook.com. And her chapter in that is called The Emotional Roller Coaster of Infertility and Miscarriage. So if you want to get that conversation started with Miss Anna McDonagh, holistic practitioner committed to facilitating healing and transformation, she assists with the interconnectedness of mental and physical well-being. We said that is the Fertility Navigator on Facebook and mayanhealinghealth.com. And before I let you go, Miss Anna, it's time for the scary part of that podcast where I try to stump you. I try to put you on the spot by asking about a fun or interesting quote or lesson that has served you. So what comes to mind as far as a fun or interesting quote or lesson?
Well, it's like this. I think if you feel as though you're broken, it's really your body's just protecting you. And when you give the body the right conditions, it's open for anything. So when I say it's open to everything, it's open to receive, it's open for change. But really, the thing is, the body does its best and ultimate best to protect you. And when that protection is removed, okay, the body will do anything it needs. Or anything that you want in the body to do. So the body has this amazing ability to heal itself, and it's just giving it the right conditions. But everything else all it's doing is trying to protect you. And it could be old beliefs, old programmings, could be anything.
So we need to start working with it instead of against it. So I like that reframe, and you can find out more all about this by going to that Facebook group, The Fertility Navigator. We've been speaking with Anna McDonagh, co-author with Pat Mesiti. Thanks so much for taking the time and educating us. I'm really glad that you showed up and helped us out.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Robert. It's been a pleasure.